Hello, everybody. It is me, GamePenguin21, and today, well, one more month down the drain into the new year, I guess, as we look to the past to see what sort of small gaming stories I have dug up from the bowels of the internet today. So again, if you don't know what this series is, this is where I basically take a bunch of random gaming stories and just kind of throw them shotgun style into one massive video. Well, massive, quote unquote. I have also done this in a couple different parts, so this week is just going to be a two-parter where I just decide to go off and talk about random gaming news that I just so happen to have crossed my feed. Overall, this series is something that I actually enjoy, and it keeps me relevant throughout most of this. This might be one of the last surviving series for a while if I decide to get this new job or whatever. Anyway, overall, this is going to cover a bunch of random things, going through different salts and stuff, but also this month saw a lot of positive smaller gaming stories that I just wanted to highlight because, you know, you don't see enough positivity in the world. But we're going to start off with some of the salt and some of the more interesting things that I just wanted to talk about. Overall, if you like what it is I do and support in any other way, shape, or form, other than like and subscribe, is always enough. Links down to everything in the description below. I do stream on Twitch and here on YouTube every Sunday at 12 p.m. EST. That is 12 p.m. my time EST, where we will do video gaming and talk about random gaming news that I just can't cover regularly. Overall, this section is basically to talk about shilling stuff. If you want to support me in other ways, I also have other methods on how to pay me, and if you want to, donate to what I do, go right ahead and do so. Links down to everything in the description below. But, of course, with all that being said, oh, right, and my new album came out last Saturday, so, yeah. Anyway, with all that actually being said and all the announcements out of the way, let's continue with this. So, starting, of course, off with PlayStation and the Indiana Jones and the DLC being out for PlayStation, I guess, and how there is a PlayStation Plus game trial, which is basically a game demo that you have to pay for PlayStation Plus for. Now, as Josh, the editor, talks about here, the trial where it's imagine paying for game demos. Now, I'm not sure if they meant like the PlayStation Plus game trial as in the actual trial of the game, that is like the demo or something that you still have to buy through PlayStation Plus, I guess. It's very kind of strange, but I mean, you're paying a subscription service to play the demo of a game which is normally free, and I find it very interesting and very strange that people are now paying for this sort of thing, like game demo wise. I remember when these sorts of things used to be very much so free, but very strange that this is one of the first stories that we're starting off with. Next up here, we have KJN Gamer with PlayStation in 2026 going to be Mega with Wolverine, Phantom Blade, Ceranos, I believe that is Marvel, I believe that is Ceranos, Tarkon, Grand Theft Auto 5, no, that's 6, never mind, and Neo 3. Now, I wanted to find it interesting here that we only have gameplay for, I think, a couple of these. I don't think we have gameplay for Grand Theft Auto, at least as of the time of recording this. That might have been at the actual state of play, but I have no idea. But Wolverine really is the only one that I have seen that actually has any major gameplay coverage. Maybe Phantom Blade has one, but I haven't seen any gameplay, at least not personally. It might have been crossing my feed, so feel free to correct me in the comments. But Ceranos, Takon, Grand Theft Auto, and Neo don't seem to have much in terms of gameplay. Maybe they did and I just missed it. But Wolverine was the only one that only very recently, and that was literally yesterday at the time of this recording, because everyone knows that I record things late in the week, Wolverine's really the only one that actually has gameplay. Maybe Grand Theft Auto does at the time of this now, but I'm not certain. And saying that, oh yeah, it's going to be Mega on PlayStation. I mean, what if they decide to release Grand Theft Auto on PC as well? They haven't announced really what platforms it's going to be on yet, so I don't know, very strange, but very weird, but whatever. One of the big news that actually was covered through a lot of this happened to be a lot of Silksong. Yeah, Silksong released this month, I believe, or at least released within the month, and was very relevant because it broke gaming industry records for some indie game stuff. And Nicola here says Silksong single-handedly destroyed every narrative by PC fanboys and pirates around excuse to try to justify stealing games. Now, of course, this Nicola wasn't the only one. There was a few people that were talking about this, as well as a Kabi here with we just pirate Nintendo games for preservation. Games are too expensive. Talking about how Hollow Knight was at least to be playable on the Nintendo Silk Song, or the whatever one this was, Ryu Bing or whatever, where it was just playable, which was the interesting part here. Now, both of these are trying to say that piracy itself, like all of these narratives, are being destroyed by it. But here's the thing, right? There was literally an article, and there was literally a bunch of pirates out there that were saying, please don't pirate this game. I mean, like, it's a good game, go out and actually buy it and support it, because this is what we want for the game. And, like, both of these screenshots here really don't say much. The fact that it was actually cracked on r/piracy, I mean, again, it happens. Piracy will happen. We can't completely stop it. Saying that, oh yeah, it's because of all the things, and the same thing here where it's like, we only just pirate these sorts of things. And here's the big deal. Just because a game gets cracked, just because a game gets pirated, doesn't mean that everyone's doing it, or that all PC gamers are doing it. It's saying that it's for preservation. Yeah, I mean, it is for preservation, because, you know, people have it on their computers now. But again, it's not everyone. And just because it works on the Switch 2 emulation software doesn't mean that everyone's pirating it. People are saying, oh, well, a lot of this stuff is just whatever. But still, as that person you love to hate basically says that it has like a 90% with an achievement sitting at 32. People don't play, just purchase and clap. Where, again, this was made literally the day-ish of when it was actually released, So perhaps being a hard game has something to do with the fact that, defeating the first boss is fucking difficult, and the fact that 32% of the people that purchased it that day over the 500,000% there, which looking at this, like 1/3 of that I think is like, I can't think of it, but that's kind of insane. Still, I have 32% doing that. That's kind of cool. But again, that like saying that, oh, achievements is the best way of doing it. I mean, talk about time played, talk about maybe some of the reviews for this as well. Look at the review numbers, like the stuff what people have on hand of how much they like played the actual game. That's probably a more specific intake of where people talk about this. But of course, Rhino probably finished capping off this whole Silk Song section, thinking about how the topic of the game of the year. This has to be said that Death Stranding 2 is greater than Silk Song. No, I think that Death Stranding 2 is a good-ish game for, the reasons of the game being cool, I guess. I personally don't like those sort of walking simulator delivery style games. Personally, I prefer a little bit more action in mine, and Silk Song is one that I would actually purchase over Death Stranding 2, because Silk Song actually kind of adds more interesting things to it. I was going to make the argument that, well, Silk Song's a sequel, but Death Stranding 2 is also a sequel, so I can't really, make that argument that one's a sequel and one's not. So, that's kind of dumb. I almost made that, but I'm not going to. At the end of the day, Death Stranding 2, in my opinion, is not much better than Silk Song. Well, Death Stranding 2 probably has, like, a really good story, a very interesting narrative, and very creative decisions made by I don't think it's Miyazaki. Made by you-know-who, whose name I've completely forgotten. I'm very sorry. It's you know who I'm talking about. Silk Song still has a ton of extra things that I personally think is really cool. But moving on, this was one that I was going to probably take out, but I'm going to just leave it in because I'm a little bit lazy today. And this is more of a trailer for what's probably going to upcoming eventually. It's been in the works for a while, and that is Delusional Takes, talking about how, drinking cow's milk is just as weird as drinking your neighbor's milk. Yeah. Overall, this is basically just a thing to say, hey, I want to make a video on this whole Delusional Takes thing. I have a whole folder of this where I've just been kind of sitting on a bunch of things over the past couple of years of whenever I, screenshotted a lot of these. I will probably do one of those eventually, but there's just so much gaming news to cover that if I even take a break for like a day or two or even a week, like of trying to not do gaming news, guess what? There's a bunch of news that ends up dropping. Hence why, the State of Play happened. Speaking of weird gaming announcements, Nicola here coming in with another interesting take, talking about how PC gamers will go up and down about the price of the PS5 Pro and Switch 2, and now the Xbox price increase, which is also very egregious, but that's probably something I'll cover in the next video. But we'll not talk about something like the Lenovo Legion, which costs about $1,500. Now don't get me wrong, $1,500 is an egregious price for any sorts of handheld, and verbatim, this is a little bit of a not so great one, because at that price, literally, that can be the same as my laptop that I bought like 8 years ago, which still actually functions rather well and, has been a very nice workhorse these past couple of years whenever I've been doing specific streaming. But overall, saying that this is like, no one's going to be talking about this, it's because it's a niche product, and, overall, you're mostly paying for the form factor here. Personally, I would just say if you're going to be buying any sort of gaming handheld, probably buy a Steam Deck. They're much more reasonably priced, much more nicer, and, they are actually really good and have a very decent and lovely functions. So overall, go and support that. Don't actually go out and buy this, because this is still an egregious price, and for nearly $1,500, you can probably make a desktop that is more powerful, will last longer, and is actually more up-to-date than this. Just saying. Next up here, we have Nib and his paragraphs of amazingness here. The basic gist of this is saying that exclusivity matters when talking about platform holders and subsidizing these eye-watering development costs, which, at the same time, there are multi-platform games that have less budgets but still sell fucking gangbusters. I don't know, maybe Silksong kind of showed one or two things about this. That wasn't exclusive at all. It came out on a bunch of different platforms. But overall, people are going to say, oh, well, but exclusivity is the thing that sells you on consoles. If the console has to sell you based on content that it may or may not have that is specifically designed or specific to that console for whatever reason, it's really dumb. Again, people will probably take a look at it and say, well, the entertainment industry does the exact same thing. Well, the entertainment industry is a little bit different than, gaming. I know people say that, gaming is the only one that exclusively does this, but, it's also infested things such as streaming now, where streaming services themselves have exclusive content to it. But, people don't like that either, so having exclusive content kind of sucks. Back in the day, you used to only need, one thing if you wanted to catch a bunch of stuff, but now everyone's going to have everything onto that. It's really dumb. Saying that, having things made for specific platforms make the platform good is not good. The platform itself should be based upon, the platform that it's based on. Having good services, having good hardware and maybe even software and stuff, being very reasonably priced for one big thing that seems to be escaping all these new guys. But you know what? It's really dumb. But he does bring up the 30% cut on all purchases for the important single sale. Okay. But at the same time, you're still getting around 70% of the money for it. And that's also including the fact that you're not just having it on one platform. You can have it on 4 different ones. All of them taking a 30% cut, sure, but you're still making more in the long term. It's a long game if you really want to talk about it. Again, coming back and running a little bit back to Silksong here with what we were kind of talking about. And kind of a combination of the two, where the industry is a wake-up call for it being $20 in terms of Silksong, where it's like, oh yeah, you don't need to hire more staff, partly rely on crowdfunding, increase prices of sequels by 33%, and take 7+ years. All these things, all these bullet points here, it's like, oh yeah, if they were to follow Team Cherry's example, they would do all the stuff that they are actually concurrently doing. Because it's really weird, how people look at this and this is the lessons that you take away, and this has happened multiple times. I think I covered this more specifically in my Silksong complete rant a couple weeks ago, but overall, dude, this just sounds like what people are doing in terms of gaming in general, in terms of some of the big dogs in gaming in general. Maybe not relying on crowdfunding, because that's just because of the sales, but everything else here is pretty accurate. Raising your prices by 33%, they went up to $80+ now, so standard edition, by the way. Taking 7+ years, where are some of the things about that? Again, we just only recently got some Wolverine gameplay, and that was announced like fucking years ago. And not hiring more staff, what's with all the mass firings and layoffs for the gaming industry? Kind of seems like, the gaming industry is already doing this, and what you're saying here, they need to, do the opposites and, maybe just price your games appropriately, take a decent amount of time, but still make sure that you deliver an actual good product and, make the product worth fucking buying. It's more the stuff. Focus on what is good, focus on the strengths of the medium itself. I talked about this a little bit on stream earlier, but Nicola here did say that the clip that some people are jerking off to, where the cinematic third-person action adventure games existed well before The Last of Us, just because they raised the bar to an almost unreachable standard, that doesn't mean they are reasonable for everyone else who tries and fails. And this is taking place from an Asmund Gold quote where he basically said that The Last of Us Part 2, or The Last of Us 1, basically was that one theater kid who did a good thing one time and everyone else is trying to emulate them, but they're emulating it poorly, and it just makes it so really bad because all the games then become bland. And, it's not a quote-unquote full quote, it's more of just like a general summarization of what his point was. And I tend to agree. While The Last of Us Part 1 was a very good game and did have a very decent story, the gameplay and stuff suffered a little bit as a result. And overall, The Last of Us is a solid storytelling game, but overall, there's more emphasis on the storytelling than the actual game part. It doesn't really feel anything important. I prefer games like Elden Ring or even probably Silksong if I'm going to go with like more story-rich type games where the gameplay and the story actually kind of meld together. If you want some really trippy stuff and really good gameplay and storytelling with world-building stuff, go play Inscription. That's an older title, but it has like gameplay, story, and even lore all mixed together, and very much so raises an interesting bar because, it's not really, specific to it, but it just kind of feels really well put together as the story and everything is just, I don't know. At the end of the day, The Last of Us Part 2, good game, but saying that it raised the bar to an unreachable level, it's been reached multiple times by other games as well. God of War and, other stuff. But all of those are Sony games, and all of those are really, they're 6 out of 10 games with the 7 out of 10 still. So, yeah. Let's end this off with actually some good news for once, and some good, fantastic, lovely news overall. And that is, to start off with, something that I covered in one of my live streams was that T-Dog here basically went out and completely and utterly pooped his pants about something having to do with Helldivers 2. However, I will say, when the actual thing, the dog can be taught, and T-Dog came back with an interesting suit and an actual can-do attitude, and while he himself still understands that this is not necessarily his game, he gave it a better score, and that is, he gave a message to the Helldivers community and actually ended up genuinely apologizing. Right. Yeah, I saw this video. It's another one of his hour-long videos, but Cluxy basically here talked about it, and he actually came in and take the criticism from the original Helldivers video and made things right. He honestly handled the whole situation perfectly, and it's great to see someone bounce back from this. T-Dog handled this wonderfully. He came back, he made a genuine apology, and actually took the time to do research, to understand what the stuff was, to really make sure that he understood what he was doing this time around. And guess what? He had more fun. It was amazing. He said that he was wrong, and he genuinely handled the situation appropriately. I know that I do talk about a lot of negativity on this channel, and I'll use T-Dog and a couple other people as an example, but I, for one, criticize people based on how the actions can make them grow. And T-Dog himself shows that even if you have a shit opinion, even if you have an opinion that is absolutely garbage, if you genuinely come back and, absorb the information that people are giving you, take the criticisms on the chin, and then come back saying, hey, I was wrong, let me correct everything, I will 100% give you a lovely round of applause and shake your hand saying, thank you, you did good. And T-Dog definitely did that, so good on you, T-Dog, for giving it a second chance. In some more interesting news here, the finals cracked again the top 10 best-selling games globally on Steam. Again, I have talked about the finals a number of times on this channel, but the finals has recently entered its season 8 stuff. It's been in it for a while, and with the majors coming up, it is actually really cool how they've had this sort of stuff. Again, the finals to me is, while it's a free-to-play game, it is one of the best free-to-play first-person shooters on the market that you can play right now, at least in my own personal opinion. So I'm glad to see it finally cracking the top 10. And I know that what you'll see, Borderlands 4 all the way at the top there. So, I mean, again, it's hanging out with CS2. So, you know, still really awesome. Some more fun, good news, and actually lovely stuff is Ultra Kill and Pal World having a crossover at some point. Coming soon, TM. What? This is one that I actually, again, saw on the various things, and this is from the official Pal World EN. So, good on you, Pal World, for actually snagging up some more indie game type stuff. I would love to see how this ends up working out here. I know that they had a Terraria crossover at one point as well, so they're definitely reaching out to help without that stuff. Bucky coming in here, and one of the developers saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, Platform. Platform is a Pal World spin-off, living with a cozy life with your pals, and actually has been working on for over a year, and they are super excited to finally reveal it to them. Where Platform is a Pal World spin-off. I don't know if I have a specific screenshot of it, but it's basically like Animal Crossing in Pal World stuff. So it's just based on the farming thing and no real survival elements. I don't even really think much else of it. So yeah, this is all still happening while I think Pal World has still been under fire from Nintendo for that. So it is actually still really cool that Pal World's basically just giving Nintendo the middle finger, being like, fuck you, we can do what we want, while Nintendo is still securing some sort of weird stuff there. A couple of Arc Raiders news, by the way, and we'll blast through these very quickly. Arc Raiders has now up for pre-order, and it's not free to play. It is a $40 price tag, which everyone assumed was going to be, because Arc Raiders is, again, by Embark Studios, the same people that have made and developed the finals. This will be available about approximately 4 or 5 weeks from now. Be sure to check it. So if you want to go out and do that, and people are like, oh, I'm glad that they didn't do that. And yeah, this is going to be their more like premium experience. So I don't think that they're going to stop development on the finals. So they've already kind of explained this, but Arc Raiders is their next game that they're going to be releasing, and has already cracked less than 5 hours on like the same day, cracked into the top 10, much like the other ones also did in the top sellers overall, where Borderlands 4 again seemingly went all the way down to number 7 and has been continuously falling, probably because of those first day whatevers. But again, it's just interesting to me that how Embark had 2 different games crack into the top 10 on 2 different times throughout this month. Very well, interestingly done. So good on Embark. So hopefully this will also be doing it. They will also have one final playtest before the official release, starting on October 17th. Mark down your calendars if you want to go out and do that. That will be before the official release on all platforms, and make sure you preload whatever you want to do that. That's again starting to October 17th through the 19th, that whole weekend. Go out and actually support this game if you want, more games like Arc Raiders, or are just a basic shooter fan, for whatever. So yeah, overall, a lot of positive news happened this month. And there was a lot of negative news this month, but that's going to be more covered in part 2, because quite honestly, this video is getting a bit long. I wanted to give you guys some good old positivity to start off your week, and then I can ruin it next time. With all that being said, if you like what it is that I do, want to support me any other way, shape, or form other than like and subscribe, which is always enough. Links down to everything in the description below. My name is GamePango21. I stream here on Sunday, every Sunday at 12 p.m. EST. Come by, say hi. We'll play some video games, both on Twitch as well. I am going to be taking a little bit of a break from other places, and I also recently joined an FPS team. I'll probably explain more about that on the stream on Sunday. Well, the stream last Sunday, as this is being recorded before that. But overall, I mean, again, this is just some good day to have. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and peace.
Can I get a favor? Yeah, sure, I know. See